Um, have you ever wondered why certain countries almost always seem to play the big antagonist in big budget movies? Well, I can assure you that that is not an accident. Beyond the popcorn and special effects, pop culture has become a primary battlefield for international influence, quietly directing how we feel about the world politics. The conflict between United States and Iran has been a prime example. Ever since the 1979, the news has fed us a steady diet of political hostility, sanctions, and military threats. But while the news handles the hard power side of the conflict, movies, TV series handle something far more influential, which is global public perception. And because American streaming platforms and film studios control global screens mostly, they get to decide how international stories are framed. They don't need megaphones and government to broadcast it. They just embed subtle political messages into the shows you're already binging on a random Friday night. By the time the credits roll, those repeated themes have quietly shaped your worldview without you ever feeling preached to. That is a soft power at its finest, winning over mindsets through storytelling rather than force.
The main actor in this case is the US government, pushing to maintain its national security, protect its national interests, and strengthen their global influence. The government themselves are trying to build narratives to support their foreign policy, which is the war on Iran right now. Their supporting actors behind their narratives include Hollywood studios, social media, and streaming services. Though right now America is pushing in the form of AI generated propaganda to push themselves and to make easier content for the general populace to consume. Iran is doing the same thing, a counter propaganda through similar means, but they do prioritize mainly in AI generated content.
So, if we're talking about actors, every actor in this game has something to gain, right? For the United States, keeping its spot as a top global power, showing the world that its foreign policy is justified. But when popular media frames Iran as an unpredictable threat, it makes hard hitting decisions like heavy economic sanctions, regional military, and diplomatic pressure. So it is much easier for the public to really keep up and accept. But Iran, on the other hand, they play a quite different defensive game. Its main goal is to protect its sovereignty, resist Western power, and shake off the negative labels. So instead of being viewed as a rogue state, Iran wants the world to see it as a proud, independent power standing up for its own regional interest. And then you have the media giant stuck right in the middle. Studios and streaming platforms aren't necessary running state propaganda departments. So their main goal is to make money. That's it. Sell tickets and hook viewers with high stakes drama. But to make story instantly gripping, creators often lean on familiar real world, quote unquote, bad guys, and simple political tropes unintentionally reinforcing the very narratives that shapes how millions understand global conflicts. So, controlling the narrative is getting harder, especially in today's world where everything is hyperconnected and the audiences aren't just passive consuming Hollywood content anymore, where they're accepting it at a face value or like a very certain ground level. With instantaneous to global news, social media, and alternative perspective, viewers can actually cross check what they see on their screens and see if there's any political motives behind their favorite content, right? So at the same time, Iran isn't sitting quietly while Western media frames its image. Through its own news outlets, digital campaigns, and social media diplomacy, Iran pushes back with competing narratives. This back and forth creates a crowded digital arena where no single nation can completely dominate global public opinion anymore. So there's a growing backlash against Hollywood. Long story of lazy storytelling. Critics, scholars, and audiences worldwide are calling out film and TV studios for relying on tired Middle Eastern stereotypes and flattening complex political realities into simple black and white tropes. When storytelling feels repetitive, or we can say biased, it it constantly backfires, reducing the credibility of American media and weakening the very soft power it tries to build.
To compensate for these failing media tactics and movies through Hollywood, the strategy around these two countries are changing rapidly. No longer do they rely on human media or human made propaganda, they are trying to compensate for it through the AI department. The US specifically generates AI pictures that paint themselves as the savior of the American people or the global landscape. Recently, there was a picture, an AI generated picture, of the current US President Donald Trump, where it was used to make him look like a Jesus figure. Iran, on the other hand, they fight back using the same thing, AI methods, but a little different in approach. Rather than trying to paint the country as a saving grace to their people, they are instead trying to paint their enemy, the United States government, as a bunch of blundering buffoons incapable of maintaining and leading a country in times of crisis and through a war they started by themselves with cute Lego generated videos. Iran endlessly mocks them in a way to simply turn the general audience into thinking, no, these are not the people who paint themselves as saviors, but the soft power these two have in the media department, just through that alone, is astonishing, to put it simply. Throughout this video, we believe there are two theories that help explain our video: Joseph Nye's theory on soft power and Alexander Wendt's constructivism. Joseph Nye's theory on soft power encapsulates how the progression of soft power went from mainstream media and popular appeal through movies, music, to push the state's political value. For America, that would be democracy and freedom, to the push for AI generated popular media that both sides use as a sort of counter propaganda. These are used to push their agendas. For Alexander Wendt's constructivism, specifically, in the idea that the international itself was built on ideas, norms, identities. That is how the US government sell themselves as the savior, a mere social construction. These two theories explains how they push media and culture and turn it from a simple means of entertaining the masses but also a political tool that is absolutely necessary in the strategy for war.
When we look at the big picture, we know one thing is crystal clear, that pop culture is never truly neutral. Even when the movie is made purely for big budget thrills or box office revenue, stories often carry values, and whether it's intentionally or not, every blockbuster and binge worthy series out there communicates ideas on who is good, who is bad, who rules the world, and how the world actually works. That doesn't mean every Hollywood writer is taking orders from the government or agency or churning out deliberate propaganda. But what I'm saying is, most of the time, filmmakers are simply relying on familiar storytelling tropes, cultural instincts, or whatever makes for a fast paced plot. But when millions of viewers see the exact same patterns, stereotypes, and political dynamics repeated across dozens of shows over decades, It leaves a lasting footprint on public perception, and that's undeniable. This is why recognizing the subtle connection between pop culture and international relations matters so much, because when entertainment doubles as soft power, passing off screen tropes as real world reality becomes dangerously easy. The goal isn't to stop enjoying these movies, but to actually understand, to stop taking them at face value. Ultimately, the best defense against media influence isn't censorship, it's critical thinking. By learning to look past the special effects and recognize the subtle narratives woven into our favorite media, and we can appreciate the storytelling without letting it quietly dictate how we view the rest of the world.
Based on the level of analysis, we split it into three: the individual level, the state level, and the international system. At the individual level, political leaders such as Donald Trump, they influence how Iran was portrayed through speeches, campaign messages, and rhetorics made through AI generated pictures. His leadership can shape narratives and political attitudes alongside public attitudes towards other countries in the sense being Iran. At the state level, the US uses popular culture as a part of its broader foreign policy strategy. By promoting particular values and narratives, as it was explained earlier, the government pushes to strengthen the support for its policies internationally in this war. At the international system level, this case builds that the competition between states is no longer limited to military or economic power. They also compete through ideas, information, cultural influence, making culture and, to a certain extent, soft power increasingly important in their relations internationally. This case specifically demonstrates that international conflict today extends beyond military or hard power. Public opinion, media, culture influence have become essential building blocks in modern diplomacy and competition globally. The US uses popular culture as a form of soft power to shape international perception, while Iran uses it to challenge the narratives through its own communication strategies. Both are using AI in their way to build their own agendas. Analyzing this entire case through the individual, state, and international system should build a better understanding of how political leaders, national interests, global structures these days interact in building the global state of the world. Thank you very much.